Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very good show tonight. We've got Rex Holt coming in a little bit later. We're going to talk about OSU basketball. We got Scott Swiden on the hook right now. So, hey, Scott, how's it going this evening?
1985. Just remember to ask him that.
Repeat that one more time. I actually had you on mute. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Ask Rex to remind Rex who his best high school Pioneer football partner was in 1985. Just remind him.
Who's he going to say?
He better say me.
Hey, Scott, I was going to get into the basketball game from last night. I thought it was one of those grinders, man. I mean, it was like one of those deals to where you weren't quite convinced OSU was going to win it all the way through. There was a lot of hype for Grand Canyon. So what'd you think?
Well, I don't know why. I mentioned a couple of friends some of the negatives, and they thought I was jumping on Lutz. I really wasn't. But I was very concerned with the fact that we gave up 17 second chance points.
Yes.
And we gave up 17 points off turnovers. And the turnovers, I mean, I get we play fast, but the second chance points, I really thought it was more than that. We got obliterated on the defensive glass, and that's inexcusable. It was just time after time after time. And they'd worked hard in a few of those possessions to get Grand Canyon to take a bad shot or one that was out of their comfort zone, and then they get another one and knock down the three. And it just, you're not going to win games in the Big 12 if you do things like that. I don't care how good you are right now. This is one of those deals. I remember, I think it was either Coach Hansen's first or second year, and we got off to a really hot start. But as it turns out, through conference games, things just kind of fell apart. Now, we had a couple of guys that I think lost eligibility because of some things in the second semester, but you got to be real careful with having an unbeaten record. And I mean, it's great and all, don't get me wrong, but there's still a lot of work for this crew to do.
No doubt. That's the exciting part of it. Is I think I've got the stats actually up on the board for the fans to see right now. I think that's actually the exciting part of that, Scott, is that you are 9-0. You've gone into two very good environments, not incredible environments. You're talking about Chicago and Northwestern. And Phoenix was a good environment last night because you had Arizona State and OU behind it. So there were some people there. So I think that probably is the exciting part of this, or one of the biggest exciting parts, is that you aren't firing on all cylinders. There's a lot of growth to be had still, and yet you still are finding ways to win. And I think that's an ingredient that takes a while, is finding ways to win. So I think that's exciting.
Well, it is. And there is a lot of room to grow, and there's a lot of talent on this team. You and I talked about it last week about the fact that, how many guys can go off for points. And last night it was Fala who just really dominated against a couple of pretty big dudes. He just used his strength more than anything else. Now, I will say this. The officiating was, once again, horrendous.
It was.
We were beat to death around the basket. And a lot of those offensive putbacks were certainly questionable. But guess what? You're in the game you're in. You better toughen up. And we didn't really do that. Now, to me, we got lucky. We hit a ridiculously poorly chosen three with, 20, 30 seconds left that kind of put the game out of reach. But golly, haven't we seen enough of that dribble the clock down and then take a bad shot? It's not always going to work. I guess, maybe these two guys, Curry and Clary, are just that, maybe they're a step above hitting that shot. But man, I'd hate to live and die by that all the time.
Kind of some stats that don't really mix and match, because usually they go together, but they did not last night. Gave up way too many offensive rebounds, no doubt about that. Matter of fact, let me get to them. I think it was 17, and second chance points, it was 17-6 in second chance points. So you gave up an 11-point deficit in second chance points. But then also Oklahoma State shot, 15 more or 20? Let's see. Let me get to free throws right here. They shot actually 7 more free throws. They made 7 more free throws than Grand Canyon even attempted, and they made 15 more free throws. So you would think the bigger team would also pound it in the paint and also shoot more free throws. So that was weird to me.
Well, I also was really disturbed by the fact that both of our point guards, it's nice to have two in the game when you're ahead and trying to take care of the basketball, but if they're going to get fouled, they got to make free throws, and they did not do that. Yeah. And I think the fact that Clary made that kind of late shot clock three somewhat bailed him out because he kind of owed his teammates. Because he was he missed one of those free throws. I think his was the front end of a 1-on-1. So you're talking about two free throws. We could have put the game away from the line way before that. And that was disturbing because if you're going to give those guys the ball, they're going to get fouled. They have to make these free throws in the last 2 minutes. Yeah.
That, and also Clary turned the ball over. I think he had more turnovers last night than he did assists. So he's been good on the year with the turnover assist ratio. So has Curry. So I'll say this to say – I say that to say this. I was texting back and forth with some people that were actually at the game. I felt like the length of Grand Canyon, they were a very tall team. I felt like that gave Kanye Clary some fits, and I felt like Jalen Curry was the better matchup for the length that the Oklahoma State Cowboys were facing last night. And I felt like with the length of Grand Canyon, also Christian Coleman was a better matchup for that than Mandzukic, just because of his athletic ability and playing away from the ball opposite Fala. I think right now his explosiveness is better for the length.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But the other thing that really, really concerned me was not just the fact that they just constantly drove past us, but that we didn't make any adjustments to coverage. Now, I know that after the game, I saw John Holcomb's report, and he said that Coach Letts said they switched to going under screens. Well, I'm sorry, but that's doing nothing to disrupt the drives to the basket. There were two timeout situations that I remember late that just changed the defense one time. Just one trip. Come down the floor and give them a different look and make them do something different. Yeah. And they just kept doing the same thing over and over again. And people get on me about, oh, yeah, you're such an expert coach. Well, let me tell you something. I got mad at the 2004 Final Four. Coach Sutton, in his stubbornness, and that's what these college coaches are, they get stubborn with that man-to-man, and that cost us the game against Georgia Tech because we played the same coverage, and the guy, Bynum, drove right by us and got the lane and scored. And everybody knew what was going to happen before it happened.
Yeah,
well, no doubt. And worse than that, he took Genava Weatherspoon out of the game and put Lucas back in, which was unfathomable. Yeah, because that was the worst defender on the team and the best defender on the team. So that was kind of crazy. But listen, I don't discriminate. It wasn't just a Lutz thing or a Boynton thing or whatever people want to think. The fact is that college basketball coaches are too hung up on this macho man-to-man defense crap, and it gets you beat sometimes. You got to be willing to make adjustments and do something different, if nothing else, just to slow the team down and take them out of rhythm just a little bit.
Yep, because really, I mean, this basketball team reminds me a lot of some of the really good Mike Gundy teams in the sense that this team doesn't have to be a great defensive team. It just can't be terrible. It's got to be a team that can just at least slow down the other team. So your runs, this team's going to go on runs. Anthony Roy's going to get hot. Jalen Curry's going to take you to the bucket. Parsa Fala's going to score in the low blocks. Christian Coleman's going to get put backs. He's going to run the floor. Isaiah Coleman's probably going to have a flurry or two per game. And I'm missing some guys here, so I'll stop there. Yeah. So I say they're going to go on 15 to 17-point runs. Now, is it 15 to 12? Or is it 15 to 3 or 15 to 5?
Right.
That's the difference between struggling to beat Grand Canyon and going ahead and winning last night's game by 7 or 8 points. So this team, I don't think, has to be great defensively, Scott. They just have to be not terrible.
Right. I will say that I thought Roy, even though he wasn't at his best offensively, he didn't throw the towel in on defense. I thought he played really hard, especially in the second half. He was actually one of the better defenders. I'll say that Crotty, his limited minutes, but he played hard defensively, and even though his shot wasn't falling. So, I thought there at the beginning of the second half when we did hit a couple of threes, I thought things were going to start flowing.
Yes.
Well, they didn't. And for whatever reason, when you get on the road sometimes, the ball doesn't go in as often, and so you gotta create more opportunities. They didn't get as many fast break points because they didn't create the turnovers, the live ball turnovers that they've been able to do it sometimes. And when you don't rebound the basketball, you can't get in transition offense either, and that really hurt.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Cowboys were outscored in points off of turnovers, 17-9, outscored in second chance points, 17-6, and then we mentioned that the rebounding. Offensive rebounds for Grand Canyon, 14. It felt like a lot more than that. And then total rebounds, because here's another weird stat. Grand Canyon got like almost 20 more shots in the game than Oklahoma State, and that's because they rebounded and that kind of deal. But really, I mean, but because they got more shots up, the total rebounding, Grand Canyon only had 2 more rebounds than OSU. That was a weird stat to me, too.
It was a little bit of an odd game.
It was.
It certainly didn't seem like we were ever going to get any distance. And then when we did, we let them right back in again.
Yes.
But like I said, sometimes on the road, when you don't shoot the ball, that's the time that your defense and your rebounding has to be better. So they've got to put all these components together. They were a little bit lucky that Grand Canyon wasn't able to finish some possessions that they easily could have.
I agree.
So it's nice to be 9-0, but boy, last night showed some setbacks in some areas that really need to be worked on quick because, first of all, we know who the next game is, and we would like to go in there and beat them by 30 or 40 if at all possible and cause as much humiliation and suffering as we possibly can.
Yeah,
but nonetheless, at least last night, on the way out the door, you could sit there and laugh and go, oh, yeah, they got beat, so there you go.
Yeah. Hey, do you mind coming on later this week? Maybe we can dedicate a show, just you and me together, talking about OU. Would you mind doing that?
Let me know. And like I said, remind Rex that his best partner when he was doing play-by-play was probably his first, because I think his first.
Oh, on the radio. Okay. Yes. Okay. Outstanding.
In 85, what happened was the Bob Berry heart attack, and Dave Garrett took over doing that. So Rex had to slide over to play-by-play most of the Pioneer games, and so I slid in to his spot. So that was, of course, all that stuff was through my connections with Dave growing up with him.
Yeah.
But Rex and I had a good time. We actually did Stillwater versus Midwest City, and that was my first time to see Mike Gundy as a senior. And I told people then when he signed with us that he would be our starting quarterback, and nobody believed me.
Yeah.
I also saw Troy Aikman his first month in Henrietta, and I told people then that he would play in the NFL, and nobody believed me. So I got a little bit of an eye for this stuff. But so have a good time with Rex tonight.
Yeah, I will. Hey, one last thing. How big of a deal do you think it was that we did not have VJ Miller?
Oh, I think it hurts. You got to be able to handle things like that. They handled being without Roy for 3 games.
Yes.
So, yes, I think it would have made a difference. I think that they would have really had a hard time covering him. They had a hard time covering Isaiah and Christian Coleman because of their athleticism, but they didn't have to cover them as much away from the basket. I think that would have changed their defensive coverage a little bit more, and they probably would have struggled a bit more with us. But it is what it is. You've got it there. Sometimes you get better when you play without those guys, like Kansas has done, because they had a really good game today on Peterson's first game back. But their other guys suddenly played better when they didn't have him on the floor.
Yep. Hey, let's shoot for Wednesday night. Yeah, we'll learn all about OU. I'll be relying on you for a lot of information on them, and we will talk all about the Bedlam, both games coming up on Saturday. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. Just shoot me a reminder because I am old.
Yeah. How do you want me to get a hold of you there?
You can shoot me a message on here. I think I gave you my email. If not, I'll put it. I'll give it there for you.
Yeah, email me and then we'll go about it that way. Sound good, Scott?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. See ya. Okay, so here's the deal there, and I really love it because that transitions me into one of the topics, and we're going to get into Rex here in just a minute. Rex goes on. He's going to dive deep into wrestling because, like I said, I haven't quite dove into that. He's going to dive into his thoughts on Eric Morris. He's going to dive into his thoughts on the basketball team. And he's going to give a few thoughts on the baseball team, not a real deep dive or anything. But this is mainly going to be a lot of wrestling and then he also has a couple of announcements that he's going to make. So stay tuned for that. But I really like this because Scott's a former coach, a very high level, very successful coach. And I was actually going to talk about this, and hearing Scott tonight just reminded me of just kind of confirmation of a topic I was going to talk about. And one thing if you've been in the coaching industry for very long, one thing you can kind of read between the lines with is when a coach really feels like they have a really good team that has a chance to have a really high ceiling, you hear them talk about the things that they don't do a lot. So this year compared to last year, Steve Lutz, like last year, you heard Steve Lutz pump the team up. You heard him talk about all the good things they were doing, all the things that he appreciated. Football being the perfect case scenario this year. Even the coverage here, definitely. You heard all about the hey, we appreciate this, hey, we appreciate that. Everything's a puff to try to show support for people who are going through a rough time. So whenever it's kind of a telltale, when a coach feels like they're shorthanded and that really the ceiling is pretty low for that group. Really what you're going to hear is a lot of positivity, a lot of puff, a lot of sunshine, a lot of that. On the vice versa of that, so listening to Scott, what I get out of a former coach that has a critical eye or a critical tone on a team that is 9-0, what I take out of that is this is a team that has a chance to be really damn good, and we would hate to waste it because of two or three things that we need to change that this group is totally capable of changing. So if you listen to Scott and you listen to Coach Lutz, it's almost the exact same temperature because last year, I'm telling you, Coach Lutz was all about, well, we're doing this well. Well, we're the process here is going well. Well, this guy's doing this good and then good. Eventually, just give it time and we'll be okay. You heard a lot of that last year. And now when you hear Coach Lutz talk this year, it's all about, well, damn it, if we don't play better defense, we're not going to win this. And if we don't do better on the high ball screen, we're not going to do this. And if we don't quit turning the ball over, we're not going to do that. You hear a much more critical Steve Lutz this year, and that is so exciting for me because I'm just telling you, when coaches start talking about, now he's not going to just sit there and slam his players, but trust me, coaches send message to their teams through the media, through their of course they talk in private and all that, but they do send public messages, no doubt about it. And so the fact that Steve Lutz, Scott Swiden, guys who have coached big time, high level athletics, are viewing this team with such a not negative, that there's no negativity, but through a critical, hey guys, we need to get better at this. The comment there is we need to get better at this because I think we're damn good. That's the exciting part. That's what you're seeing here. And that's what's so exciting. And just listening to Scott talk there again, just confirmed the suspicions I'd been thinking about listening, because I've listened to Coach Lutz about 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, damn, that's different than it was last year. I mean, that's a pretty critical take right there. Again, not negative, but critical take in terms of, okay, that's pretty point blank. We need to start doing that better. And I started thinking of the reasons why, and I'm like, you know what? This is why. It's because he honestly thinks, well, this could be a pretty damn good team, and it already is a pretty damn good team, but it could be even better than that if we just fix a couple of these things, again, that we're capable of. So that's kind of, that's a telltale to me about the capabilities of this team. I think this has a chance to be a really good team. What I really like about OSU this year is last night, Grand Canyon was a little bit longer, so I thought the explosiveness, the wingspan of Christian Coleman, and then also the wingspan and strength of Jalen Curry taking it to the bucket. I messaged many different times. The 3 guys to me that had to be on the floor to continue to have positive margins was Jalen Curry, Christian Coleman, and Parsa Fowler. Now, I know Kanye Clary made some nice plays down the stretch, but he did not have a good night. So I really thought the three guys that made the biggest impact were those three. Now, the next game, you might have smaller, quicker guards, like against Sam Houston. Kanye Clary was unstoppable. Then a Manzoukas, there may be a style of game that's a little bit slower that I think suits him. You might have a game to where you have a lot of foul trouble or it's really fast and you have more minutes to dish out. And then maybe a Ryan Crotty plays a little bit bigger of a role. And then also don't forget, you haven't gotten Robert Jennings Jr. back. And so you haven't gotten all of your players all together at one time. And so, man, there's a lot to be excited about. We're not going to really cover the girls tonight. We'll cover them on Wednesday. Not really a whole lot to talk about on Saturday. They did exactly what you would expect for them. So, hey, without that, let's go ahead and get into Rex. Let's get his thoughts. He's going to talk. We're going to ask Rex about Eric Martin. We're going to ask him about his broadcasting Hall of Fame broadcasting career. We're going to talk to him about. I'm going to ask him about the Chief, Matt Davis, his partner. Is he coming back? We know that Matt Davis stepped down from his roles at Oklahoma State. We're going to talk about Rex's broadcasting as far as the wrestling goes. He's going to make an announcement there, so stay tuned. We're also going to talk, again, about this basketball team and a lot about wrestling. So without any further ado, let's not waste more time, and let's get to it. The Hall of Fame broadcaster for Oklahoma State, Rex Holt. Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. Glad that you decided to tune in. Rex Holt, the Hall of Fame broadcaster for Oklahoma State, joins today. Rex, thank you so much for joining, man.
Always a pleasure, Case, and hopefully, again, we can figure some things out today.
Yeah, year 43 for baseball, correct?
Yeah, coming up on, I guess, or 43, I believe.
Yeah, 43 in the can, 44 maybe, next year,
Yeah. And then this was my 41st year of wrestling, but I had a personal issue that came up to start the season. I'm good now and on the road to recovery from a medical issue, and I'm going to get ready to go, in fact, do a match in West Virginia next week. I've been doing the coaching shows, but at some point, it looks like this year might be my last year to do some cowboy wrestling. I'll probably, again, give that up sometime during this season. Well, I know I'm probably going to. That's kind of set the wheels in motion. And then just be full-time cowboy baseball. And I'm still working at the radio station and doing some of my shows there. So, again, I'm not completely riding off into the sunset, but paring down just a little bit as, again, I'm of retirement age and maybe then some.
Yeah. Health is good, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I know you had appendix problems, but we're over that, correct?
The appendix problem, but, that could happen to anybody. That wasn't an old man issue. That was just an appendix issue. So, I just wasn't feeling well. The next thing, and it wasn't just your basic, let's go in and take your appendix out. By the time they got to me, it had ruptured, and it was a mess, according to my doctor. That was her words. It was an absolute mess. So, they had to go then cut into me and get me all cleaned out and fixed up. So, I'm headed a couple of 3 weeks ago. So everything's pointing the right way, and I'm getting ready to jump back in and, like I say, ready to do some more wrestling broadcasting and get things back in motion. And again, I'm back at the radio station full time and all that. So It's good. No complaints.
I know Chief moved on from his job at Oklahoma State, but is he going to continue to be your color guy in baseball?
Well, he is not. Again, there was just no way to do that. He's full-time, fully employed over at Stroud High School. And, of course, his boys are still in school over there and all of that. So, again, he was after him and his wife bought some land over there in that area, and he had that hour drive to Stillwater and back because his real job was facilities, but it allowed him to do cowboy baseball, of course, so it was conducive for him to do that, although there was more of a drive involved this last year. And then the opportunity opened up over at Stroud High School. They got a good man over there. He's kind of going to be a helping coach, in fact, some Stroud High School baseball. He's in charge of facilities and tournaments and maintenance and all that good stuff. So anyway, he's going to take it over there. And they got, like I say, they got a good man. I lost a good man, but had a lot of good years with the Chief in the booth. And again, it's one of those deals where he's really going to be hard to replace for the fans that are so used to hearing him doing the color. He was outstanding at it. we complimented each other very well. We were a great team, and we'll see. I'm not sure if they're going to, again, maybe I'll fly solo a little bit this year, that they're trying to, well, as you know, Case, it's, you're playing 56 games in the postseason, and it's somebody with a full-time job really can't do that. So
right.
I'm not sure. Again, we'll see between me and again, Dave Hunziker and Kip Racy at Learfield and just see what they want to do. But I'm definitely going to be, without the wrestling to tie me up, I'll be day one able to go do baseball full-time. And whether I have a partner or not, that's still in the mix.
So Chief is frozen pizza, huh?
Yeah, he is frozen pizza, no doubt. Tip your cap and move on.
No doubt.
He's got a new gig, but like I say, it allows him to be, of course, right there with the family, and the boys are growing up. They're both, again, in junior high and high school, so it's good for him and the family that he can. And then plus, like I say, he got a pretty good gig over there. Stroud is one of the more well-to-do high schools in the state of Oklahoma because of their proximity to some oil and things of that nature. So, again, he was able to, get a good job. And those are great people over there. I've known them for a long time over there, over at Stroud. So, anyway, they got a good man, and that's where he is now. So, yeah, he wanted to stay, but, again, life moves on, of course.
Yeah. So piggybacking off of that with Chief, kind of dive in a little bit, not too heavy. We want this show to be more about wrestling because we've covered baseball pretty good, but kind of what you think. I know a lot of people are getting antsy wanting Oklahoma State to make it back to the College World Series. It's been almost a decade now. So tell us what you think about baseball this year.
Well, again, I like it. I went over and watched the guys a little bit in the fall and been keeping up with it. And Josh, and of course, got a new pitching coach. But other than that, Rob did move on. But other than that, the staff's in place. There's some continuity, obviously, with that. And I think they kind of hit on a formula for how they're going to build their rosters year in and year out. And we saw the influx of some great freshmen year ago, particularly on the mound, but a couple of them position players also, and a couple of JUCO kids that worked into the mix a year ago. So, again, Oklahoma State's focus still seems to be, let's bring in some JUCO kids, let's bring in some high school kids, maybe not the highest profile or most expensive with the NIL and things, but maybe they, again, take care of the ones you've got. Get everybody on scholarship and try to keep them in the fold. And Josh was able to do that after a year run, with that class he had a year ago. He kept all those pitchers in the family, and they're all back, and plus a couple of the veterans they brought in out of the portal. And then, like I say, a couple of three position players that really stepped up a year ago, and they're all back. And now an outstanding freshman class from what I can tell. Athletically, it's about as good as they've ever had.
Yes.
And speed-wise, it's better than maybe the best they've ever had. So they may be able to do a few things. And instead of going out there and just trying to go dollar for dollar with the likes of Tennessee and those people, you're going to try to, bring in some guys and fill some holes. And they did that with a catcher coming in from Ole Miss or whatever. But for the most part, again, and they'll hit some portal players here and there to try to fill some immediate needs. But it looks like they're going to try to bring in freshmen and JUCO kids and then hang on to them, take care of them. And so far, that formula looks like it worked last year, and I like the way it's looking this year. So I'm optimistic. I think everybody over there is optimistic of what could happen. And, of course, OSU's never been off the radar anyway. They've been a perennial contender. The Big 12, whether it's the tournament, the regular season, and in the NCAA tournament year in and year out. And, of course, they've been on the precipice of maybe, a winner here or there. Excuse me, maybe they go back to Omaha, but hasn't happened. And, yeah, I know the natives are getting restless, and that's the mark of a great program. And because the fans expect more, but nobody expects more than Josh, that coaching staff, and those players that are coming in. So, again, it's just a matter of a win or two here or there, just like last year. The Cowboys were in a position. They put themselves. They eliminated the home team and in a position to move on to the next round. It didn't happen. And, again, the frustration continues there. But you got to be in the position to get there. And the Cowboys are in that position year in, year. They just got to get over the hump. And it's not that they didn't have enough talent or players to do that. It just didn't happen. Case, we know baseball. It's, any given day kind of scenario. When you get to that point, for sure, all the bad teams are done. It's just the good folks who are still playing. And you, again, Cowboys were right there on the just one win away to moving on to the next round, and very well would have hosted that next round had that been the case. So you were there. You were in a position. It didn't happen. But now the job is to get back there again and win that next game, and then move on to Omaha. Everybody wants to go back. And like I say, nobody more than Josh Holiday. So I think you just got to stick with the formula. They kind of hit on something with the new advent of the portal and all those things that are going on. They have a game plan. And again, we saw how they are going to attack this thing a year ago. And then, like I say, the influx of talent they brought in, young, yes, but boy, I like it. But they also, Case, and you know as well as I do, they've got position players at every position who have been there and done that. So they got experience all the way around the field, and then they're going to be pushed by this young talent coming in. So there's no reason for the expectations not to be high for this Cowboy team this season.
I totally agree. Okay, the coaching search, Eric Morris, your grade of how Chad Weiberg did as far as getting Eric Morris in here, your excitement for Eric Morris and all that. Give us your thoughts.
Well, again, I'm excited, and I think the entire Cowboy Nation is excited. This season, obviously, nobody enjoyed it. And again, I think the only thing that came out of it was the fact that we saw a bunch of kids who stayed locked in, wouldn't quit. We saw a bunch of coaches, despite the fact they were not probably going to have jobs. It looks like they do not. But they stayed the course. They stayed optimistic. The kids stayed locked in. And again, OSU, those last three games could have won them all if the offense could have done just a little more of something. The defense played well enough to win. And that just kind of tells you, even though this season was lost, that the arrow was pointing up. The energy was still there with the coaches and the players. And we'll see how many of those guys come back as far as the roster and how many are invited back. All of that's still to be worked out. But the Eric Morris taking the job, and I think you got to give Chad Weiberg an A. I don't know if it's an A+ yet, but I'd say that you got to give him an A, that he was able to get this done before any of the dominoes began to fall. And this is a guy, me and you talked about it, me and you texted each other about it.
Yeah.
But this was a guy that was high on the radar the entire time because of what he did at North Texas, and other people were there. And I really thought Arkansas, with all their money, might just buy him and that he would move on there. But in the end, it was the fact that I think he feels like he's got a better shot to get to that CFP through Stillwater in the Big 12 than going through Fayetteville in the SEC. I think that was the ultimate determining factor. And also, again, I think Chad Weiberg and the facilities at Oklahoma State, some things, and he knows that Mike Gundy, he's played against Mike Gundy and the Cowboys back when he was at Tech, but he knows the success and the run of success they had with bowl games and winning seasons. So it's been done, not that far removed from winning football in Stillwater. So hopefully he could come in, and I don't know what do we expect in year one, but if he comes in here, has a winning season, goes to a bowl game, I think everybody will be happy. And maybe, again, who knows from there, maybe you get lucky and knock out a couple of more wins, but not going to start predicting that. But the fact they got him early before everything else began to happen around the country. Really, I think he was probably not 1A, he might have been 1B on the coaching search. And to get him before any of the other things started to happen, he already announced, I'm headed to Stillwater. Chad Weiberg and company deserve a lot of credit for that.
You know, we've been kind of beaten into the ground the last couple of years with not winning games and all that kind of thing. And so just to hear the fact that it feels like Oklahoma State got the guy they wanted, that he chose Oklahoma State over like in Arkansas and in places like that, it just kind of renews your hope as a fan, like, okay, well, this could be a good program. Okay, this actually is a good program. This wasn't just smoke and mirrors, and we have a chance to move on past Coach Gundy. So it kind of renewed your hope as a fan, didn't it?
No doubt. I think it was kind of odd because the season, everybody wanted to go away and end. Let's just get it over with. But it had a different feel of that there is light at the end of the tunnel, even though that last game with Iowa State and the Cowboys, like I say, the defense played well enough to win that game. The offense had a few moments. But I think just in general, the feeling was, again, I know the students were gone. It was Thanksgiving and all that. But, again, you just got the feeling from the Cowboy Nation that, this season is horrible. But I like the way that the kids continue to compete, and I like the way that Chad Weiberg was able to bring a guy in that gives us all tremendous hope for the future of the Cowboy football program. And so it was kind of an odd feeling of, this has been a horrible season, the bottom of the spectrum. But on the other end, I think we got a great coach. And let's see how this whole thing plays out. Again, he was able to bring a bunch of kids in that they were recruiting in North Texas for the early signing period. And we had 2 or 3 other guys who had maybe left or not going to be or had sought other schools out after Gundy was fired, returned to the fold. So, and again, of course, they'll be heavy into the portal. They're going to have to get in there just to build their roster. And who knows how many of those North Texas players, which just played for the AAC championship on Friday, will follow their coach to Stillwater, including a great quarterback, again, a running back out of Shawnee who got hurt in that game, unfortunately. Didn't see much of him, but one of the top wide receivers in the country. Again, I'm not saying they're all coming, but the potential is there for those guys to join their coach in Stillwater. I think most of the staff is coming. The general manager is already in place. He was here and set up shop before the early signing period got underway. So the GM's in place. They have made a great team. They're in Denton. And again, I think most of the coaches are probably going to come with them. We'll see. Again, we'll let that whole thing play out. But he's going to meet everybody on Monday. Big press conference here in Stillwater. And North Texas will move on and play in a pretty good bowl game, as it turns out. But Tulane did win that game, and they're going to be in that CFP out of the group of 5, no doubt, because that's what that game was for. That was to determine the group of 5, probably the number 1 team to come out of that. So although James Madison may get in also now that some other things like Wake Forest and some of these other teams did win. But again, we're not a part of that. We got our man. He's not going to have to go to the playoffs. So maybe he gets here just a little bit earlier. And again, a lot of those kids that the Cowboys signed the early signing period, I think only about 2 or 3 of them are not going to be here for spring football.
Yeah.
So
right.
Again, a lot of, and how many kids on the current roster, and I'm hoping Wendell Gregory and some of those guys decide they want to stay in Stillwater, and the new coaches, again, have a going to sell those guys on staying with them and staying in the program. But again, if you can keep a majority of those guys, there were some players in that group that you would like to hang on to. So again, we'll have to let all of this play out, but the fact that Cowboys got the jump on everybody else, Chad Weiberg deserves a lot of credit. Eric Morse, again, it looks like he was not he knew what he wanted to do, what his goals are, and so again, he didn't wait around either. He felt this was the best situation for him. So good for Oklahoma State.
Yeah. UNT did not play well on Friday night against Tulane.
No,
any part of that worries you? I know I've heard that from fans.
Yeah. Well, and nothing really worries me there. They just made mistakes, and again, they were just unlucky in some cases. A lot of bad bounces did not go their way. So, football is just that way. But again, they were right there. And a couple of those bounces gone the other direction. Who knows what kind of game it may have been. But again, Tulane played well. Their coach is leaving also and going to Florida but he's going to be tied up in the playoffs for a while with the Green Wave making it to the CFP, as it turns out. But I had no problems with that game. Again, he looked like he had them prepared. But again, just a few things did not go. The ball didn't bounce right for them. And that's all it takes when you get to this point of the season.
Absolutely. Your colleague, Robert Allen, is retiring from the sideline gig, too. He's done a good job, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Well, again, nobody's more, orange bleeds more orange than Robert Allen, and he's always worn his emotions on his sleeve. He's very, very opinionated, or again, times that you hear and see his emotion. But he was always, again, first and foremost, for Oklahoma State. And, of course, he and Mike Gundy, worked together and were great friends. So he had that relationship that he probably got a lot of inside information that a lot of guys would not have gotten. So he knew what was going on in the program, knew what he could say or not say through his friendship with the head coach. And, I've known Robert a long time, obviously. He's an OSU guy through and through. And now he can just concentrate on his radio gig, I guess, and do his thing. But yeah, and it's kind of like me. There comes a point where maybe it's time for some new blood. Now with the new regime coming in, probably not a bad time. They're going to step away And Robert, like I say, he's kind of like me. I'm a little older than he is, but maybe time to, let the younger generation, let somebody else take that job over with the new coach coming in. And kind of the situation I faced in wrestling, although it's the second year of David Taylor. But when things kind of fell the way they fell, talking about the ball not bouncing right, or circumstances that life sometimes steps in and you think, maybe it's time. So anyway, with the new coach coming in, the new regime coming in, probably not a bad time to, like I say, Robert did a great job, but there comes a time for all of us to move on.
Interesting time in Oklahoma State's tenure here. Of course, you don't have OU in the conference anymore. You don't have Texas in the conference anymore. So we're kind of having to bet on ourselves for the first time ever. You know that final round of realignments just around the corner, probably 2030 whenever the ACC contracts are up, the media contracts are up. You have Coach Gundy, who is no longer the coach at Oklahoma State. Rex Holt's no longer going to be doing wrestling. Robert Allender, just lots of change around Stillwater. And I know OSU fans don't necessarily like change.
Well, yeah, and not that I necessarily like it too. But I'd say over 40 years I did Cowboy. I started with Tommy Chesbrough.
Yeah.
So, and I was in college at the time. And it just still how life works out, Case. The fact I wrestled at Guthrie. Yeah. I'd never wrestled in my life. I had seen wrestling. I loved it. I'd come to Oklahoma State when my brother Ron was in college. First match I ever saw was OSU and Iowa State. Myron Roderick versus Harold Nichols. And Dan Gable was even on the Iowa State team. I don't know. I was 10 or 12 years old. I don't even remember now. But again, I think Jerry Shirk was a heavyweight that night for OSU. And OSU won the duel. But that's the first match I ever saw. But I came up and I came up and watched the tournaments and, went to the Big 8 tournaments and things. And then when I moved to Guthrie, again, came from a little school that just had basketball. And I thought, I've always liked it. I want to try it. So I went out to practice one day with a buddy there at Guthrie that I'd just met. And he was a wrestler and said I always wanted to try that. And I went in and I did okay. And I thought, and my coach kind of encouraged me, said, I think you got a knack for this. Natural.
Who was the wrestling coach at Guthrie then?
Yeah, Joe Woody.
Joe Woody, okay.
Joe Woody was the coach, yeah. And he just said, I think you got it, I'm going to encourage you. And I said, well, I don't know that they need me on the basketball floor at that time. And they had Richard Dunnigan and Roy Dewberry and some of those guys. And basketball, again, I was a pretty good little guard as far as defense and bringing the ball up the floor, but I was never a great shooter. I always tell people my shot made me a wrestler. But the fact I went out for wrestling my junior year, I never wrestled. I did those 2 years. I made the varsity as a senior. But that move, that decision, is what got me on the radio. Yeah. Again, at 21 years old, because Jack Griffin had to give it up. His gas ups, which are now all on cues at the time, where that was his business was exploding. And anyway, he had to give it up. And Bill Platt and Leon Matthews said, hey, we're not wrestling people. We'll get you in and out of the breaks. We'll run the broadcast. You describe the action because Jack's giving it up and we need you. And next thing I know, I was the voice of Cowboy Wrestling. And I was about a junior in college at the time or sophomore. So anyway, that's where this whole thing began. But this little decisions you make in life, the little forks in the road, as they say, it led me here, and I'm glad it did. Like I say, 40 years, some years later, because eventually Bill Platt brought me into the radio booth because of that. And like I say, here we are. So you never know how it's going to turn out. And just got, again, opportunity knocked, and here we are. So.
Okay, let's talk about this year's wrestling team that they've only lost the one duel, which is to Iowa. First of all, is this a better duel team or is it a better tournament team?
Well, that's a good question right now. I think in the long run, they're probably going to be maybe a better tournament team.
Okay, good.
And I think that, that's what matters the most is the Big 12 and the NCAA tournament in the big scheme of things. So, but again, the dual record does matter. But again, the match against Iowa, we had a match or two that we should have won and didn't, and that just flipped the script. So Iowa did win that match. Iowa, of course, got beat by Iowa State about a week ago. So anyway, we'll see them later in the season. Iowa State was not at the they were not at the national duels. Penn State was not there. Iowa State was not there. But the Cowboys, of course, they beat Nebraska, which was ranked number 3 in the nation at the time.
Beat their brakes off, didn't they?
Beat them pretty handily, but Nebraska was missing a guy or two. They get the rematch. I think it's the 20th or 21st in Lincoln, and I'll be doing that match. They're going to run into Nebraska again and go on the road to do it here in a couple of weeks. But anyway, the Cowboys are right there. They were right there with Iowa. They lost a match probably that they shouldn't have. They had the favored guy who didn't win. So be it. That happens from time to time. But this Cowboy lineup, again, it's still kind of fluctuating a little bit. There's still some injuries that have to play out at a couple of weights. But a couple of the guys they were really counting on, Richard Figueroa, a national champion at 125 from Arizona State a couple of years ago, came in. He's at 133. He has struggled. Casey Swiderski, a couple of time All-American, came in from Iowa State, speaking of. And he has he won in the coaches all-star duel, but then he got off to a tough start out of the gate, and things have been a little rough for him. And then you have some freshmen who have stepped into the lineup and been absolutely lights out, who have stepped in and made a name for themselves already. There may be a few more on the way. And there's even talk that one of the members of the brand-new class, which the OSU just signed a few weeks ago, the number 1 recruiting class in the country for this next year. And Jax Forrest is the most celebrated member of that. And he's a kid that's already been on the U.S. national team in competition at 17, 18 years old. He's graduating from high school early. He's been in Stillwater working out anyway, going to school online for the most part. But the word is that he may finish and in the second semester maybe go ahead and join the Cowboys, and he may wrestle in 133. Again, that's a weight where nothing has been settled there so far. We've seen several people there. 133, 149, probably the 2 weights that are, again, I think everything else, I begin to 197. There was a little, Cody Merrill was a little shaky there, but of late he has really come on. So,
157,
anyway,
is there anything up in the...
Was that
up in there? 157, is there any debate there?
No, I don't think so. Again, that's, well, not right now. There's no debate. Landon Robidoux is one of those freshmen. He and Ladarian Lockett, or D. Lockett, they called him from Stillwater. Those guys, and the Sergio Vega kid at 141 pounds, they have been unbelievable. And then there's a Ramirez kid who has been wrestling 133. Ronnie Ramirez is another true freshman.
Yes.
When they've wrestled him, he has looked like maybe he's, going to get in the lineup and be hard to get out of there. So
they're trying to fit the pieces together as far as getting the best wrestlers out there and finding the weights later, or are they trying to stick to the weights?
I think right now they're excuse me, that I don't think they're worried about that right. I mean, they're trying to win every match.
Yes.
And they're in an open tournament. In fact, as we speak today, they took 18 kids there. They didn't take all the starters. But, you got Spradley at 25. He was in the national finals a year ago. 133, again, Ronnie Ramirez has been the most impressive of the guys who have wrestled there. Richard Figueroa was the guy Richard Figueroa, the second who transferred in from ASU. I think they kind of had him maybe penciled in there, but he has really struggled. But then you get on down to 141, Sergio Vega, little skinny looking. Again, he doesn't look the part, but man, has he been unbelievable. And he's beaten already some of the top-ranked guys in the country. And looks like he's locked in there at 141. Again, at 149, Casey Swiderski struggled there. Again, we got a couple of other kids who were in that area. Teague Travis did transfer and move on. He's going to Missouri. We may see him, as a matter of fact, next semester. He's headed back. He is from Columbia. And so he's around 49 or 57. We've seen him at both weights and as a starter for the Cowboys in the past. But he decided to move on. So not exactly sure what's going to go on there. Again, Swiderski will get an opportunity to right the ship and get back in there. But Cale Hughes is also at that weight. He has been banged up. Tegan Jamison could be at that weight. He's had injury issues. Again, both of those guys hopefully will be healthy and they get a chance to compete in the second semester. So there's plenty of talent there. Just a matter of seeing who emerges there. So that's one of but Landon Robidoux, again, the freshman at 157 has been abs. He's ranked second in the nation already. And then you've got 165, and that's D. Lockett. He's ranked number 2. We have freshmen who went from being unranked to number 2 in the nation, 3 of them. So, to say they've been impressive out of the gate. Alex Facundo, Penn State transfer at 174. He's just been kind of he was out for a while. He was out. He redshirted. He got injured, so he's been out, and then he transferred here. But he's going to be outstanding. He's still just kind of getting everything acclimated after a couple of years where he didn't have much action at all. But he's had some moments already. Another Penn State transfer, Zach Ryder at 184. You could pencil him probably in there full-time. There's some other guys who will challenge. Cody Merrill, who was a freshman last year and redshirted. And, again, he's a kid that he was behind Luke Serber. But he got to wrestle a match or two. But he's a kid from California who was a 240-pound heavyweight out of high school. He's down to 197. This year, he kind of got out of the gate. And he was, again, being a heavyweight and then being a 197-pounder, there's a big difference between the guys you wrestle and the skills it takes to compete there. But he struggled a little bit earlier. Had some matches where he thought he should have beat that guy more than he did. And, is he going to be okay? But, boy, I think the last couple of 3 weeks he has really settled in, gotten comfortable, and he looks like a legit contender at 197. And nobody has been more impressive than Connor Doucette. Case, we all saw him. Of course, he was the Cowboys starting heavyweight a couple of years and took a sidestep for Wyatt Hendrickson. You may have heard of him last year, who came on and won the national championship. But Connor stepped aside as Wyatt did his thing, but he worked out with him every day in the room. You can't tell me that doesn't make you better. But he also was in that weight room, and he's redistributed his weight, and he's now an impressive physical. I mean, not that he was, had a little more midriff or back in the day, but man, he's solid as a rock. He's big. He just is quicker and more powerful. And he won all those 1-0 overtime, 2-1 matches in the past. Did a good job, qualified for nationals. But now he is going out, and he's been one of the top match in and match out, scoring a lot of points for the Cowboys. He is a different person, a different heavyweight. So you got to, and he will be the Cowboy heavyweight unless there's an injury or something they have to contend with. But yeah, I think the lineup for the most part. And again, we'll see if Jax Forrest comes in. Maybe he jumps in the mix there at 133. And anyway, we'll just have, and like I say, 149 is the other weight that Cutter Sheets has been wrestling there of late. Mm-hmm. But it's still a little bit up in the air.
So can Oklahoma State win a national title this year? And if not, which that's kind of the consensus, I think, is that maybe they're a year or two away. Right. How long do you think it will be before Oklahoma State can legitimately compete with Penn State for a national title?
Well, I'm going to say I think OSU right now, well, again, we'll see them against Iowa State. And once they get the couple of weights here, again, the second half of the semester, and again, David Taylor is not opposed to letting everybody have a shot. Hey, there's a job open here. And he's not opposed to letting guys challenge the starters who are already in place. And nothing makes you better than having somebody, again, over your shoulder ready to take your job. That's what makes you better. So the depth is there. Again, I think most of the weights have been kind of penciled in or figured out at this point, barring any injury. Got a couple of weights that are still up in the air. So is OSU better than Iowa State? Again, and Iowa. They can beat both of them. I have no doubts about that. We'll see Nebraska again. They've already beaten them once. Maybe Nebraska was not at full strength. They'll see Virginia Tech on the road also. So they're going to run into most of the teams that they're going to be competing with. Can they compete this year with Penn State? I have my doubts about that. The Nittany Lions are loaded, and they will be in the future too. But I just feel like Oklahoma State, with what they've got in place, they got a bunch of these freshmen, which means next year those guys will be a year older with a year under their belt. And then this freshman class coming in, which is the number one class in America. I'm going to say that maybe this year you give Penn State the edge, barring, again, any major injuries, that they're still the team to beat. That hasn't changed. Even though the Cowboys are ranked 4th, I think they very well could be, and maybe the second best team in the nation when it's all said and done. They'll have a chance to do that. And then next year, I think legitimately they'll have an opportunity to maybe knock those Nittany Lions off the throne. Again, that's just a guess on my part, but I think you kind of get the feeling that's where it's headed.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's finish this up. We got a couple of minutes here. The basketball team, I think it's time for Oklahoma State fans to get very excited about this team. Good win last night on Saturday night in Phoenix against Grand Canyon, a very long team, a team that was very hungry to beat Oklahoma State. You didn't have Victorious Miller, and so anytime you still don't have Robert Jennings Jr., Ben Ahmed, so you're still not full strength. But somehow the Oklahoma State Cowboys at this point have always found the right mix, the right formula, the right combination of players on the court. Last night I thought it was Christian Coleman and Fala, obviously, and then I felt like Jalen Curry. I thought those three together was the key last night to combat the length of Grand Canyon. But talk about last night's big win, the 9-0 start, and the excitement to basketball. And I've talked to Brendan Manzer and Alex Weber quite a bit about that.
Right. Well, again, they've been kind of following a similar formula, it seems, that they play just well enough. They're either got a small lead or they're staying in the game. And again, they get down a little bit here and there. And you think, well, but they always seem to be able to not let the other team get away. They keep them in range. And then at some point they do make that run. And, it just seemed like, and they screw up just enough, I think. Defensively, they have major lapses. And Steve Lutz, you can tell he wants to bang his head into the wall from time when you see a guy just take a dribble from one end of the court to the other and shoot a layup. Like, rule number one, stop the dribble. But we've seen some of that. Last night, what infuriated me, I don't know, but was frustrating to watch was that Greg Kenyon got so many second and third opportunities.
Yes.
It just seemed like all night, get the rebound. But I tell you what, you mentioned a guy that hasn't been talked about. Sorry about that. Robert Jennings. He's that guy. He'll play defense in the paint. They need that. He'll stop that dribble coming down the lane. If he's got an opportunity, he can rebound. He'll do the dirty work. He'll play defense. He'll rebound. And he's a bit of a tough guy. I think they need him in the mix sooner than later. I'm not sure what his situation is, but I think he'll be a major help. But with Fowler, and again, as you said, Victorious was out, but they've got any number of guys. And Anthony Roy really hadn't played well.
Correct.
Or lit it up offensively of late. He hits big shots when you need them. You like that. When he seems to be, you've about given up on him, he'll knock down a big shot.
He will.
Get you a big play. Get a big rebound. So the talent is there. But he still hasn't really hit his stride on either side of the ball. He's still a work in progress defensively. But, again, I like this team. And like I say, Curry and those guys, maybe they missed 2 or 3 shots, but with a big three-pointer last night with the game on the line.
Oh, boy.
Jump up and knock it down from the left wing. That was, again, you like it. Last year, you were waiting for somebody to win a game.
Yes.
They didn't have anybody that wanted the ball in crunch time. Now, I don't know, everybody seems to want it, or nobody shies away from the big moments, and you love that. They just got to buckle down. They got to get better defensively. They got to screen out and get, don't give up the backside baseline. There are too many layups or down the lane on occasion. They just got to get better. They got to lock it down defensively and do a little better job on the glass because there's plenty of offense, and there's not a man on the floor who can't provide some offense.
Reminds you of Mike Gundy's football team, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Sure. Yeah.
You score a lot, but then you get frustrated on defense on the defensive side. What do you think the ceiling is for this team? And Ben Ahmed's another guy I think that some people say he might be the best rebounder of anybody on the roster right now.
Again, I haven't seen enough of him to even know, but I've seen Jennings, and I know what he can do. And he'll do, like I say, he's a guy that'll do. You need that dirty work kind of guy to, again, play defense in the paint and rebound and do all those things, and he'll do that. So, again, Ahmed, if he's that way, more power. Again, that just helps out. Vukovic hasn't quite hit his stride either. Again, some of those guys that are still a work in progress, maybe a little man, Jukas. He's had some moments, but he needs to, again, and he was missing for a while, so those guys
feels like they're trying to force feed Mandzukic. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels like it to me.
Yeah, right. But I like Fowler. He's a tough guy in the paint. Yeah. He's very emotional, and he's, like I say, he's strong. He'll impose his will. You got to watch him, though. He's a bull in the china closet from time to time. But again, he's the guy kind of guy you got to have, and he's got great moves around the post, and he can shoot with either hand, and he does a great job there. So, Yeah, there's, again, the ceiling for me is, I think maybe they're a tournament team. How far they could go, I don't know, but I have no doubts in my mind that this team, and particularly if they can buckle things down defensively, and Lutz will again crack the whip and do everything he can to get them there. They may not ever be great, but that's a team again when they get maybe some of these guys back and everybody kind of settles into their roles a little better. That we'll see a team that again will have an opportunity to get back into the March Madness mix and maybe win a game.
Here's a telltale for me. Last question here. I know you got to get ready to watch your Bears whoop up on. Who are the Bears playing today?
The Packers. The longest rivalry in football. And it's for, first place in the division on the line. And what the heck? The Bears are surprised. The Packers were supposed to be there. But we'll see if the Bears can hang with them. They got 2 games in 3 weeks with the Packers. Today's at Lambeau.
Okay, so let's finish with this. You've talked to a lot of coaches in your day, and I think you'll probably attest to this. One telltale is when they know they're not very good or they're going to struggle. It seems like everything they talk about is how good they could be or everything's positive. They're trying to maybe puff everything up to where maybe instill confidence in their team through their public comments or whatever. You can really tell, though, when a coach likes his team and thinks the team has a lot of potential, because even with the media, even publicly, everything that comes out of their mouth is tough. Like you hear Steve Lutz talk right now, and it's all about, well, we're not doing this. Well, unless we do this. Well, so when a coach starts talking like that, not necessarily negatively, but in a tough, analytical way towards his team, that's a telltale to me that they think they have a real chance to win. Right. Am I tinfoil hat too much there? No,
not really. And again, John Smith was notorious. If I said, "Oh, your team looked great," he would "Oh, no, they didn't look good. We didn't look good at all." Yeah. But if I say, "Oh, your team really struggled," what are you talking about? That's a top team in the country.
Right.
And he always seemed, no matter what side I took, he said, "Well, don't take it personally."
Yeah.
I don't want, I'm talking to the fan base and the team, the guys on the team also at the same time that I'm talking to you on the coaches show. But
yes.
You don't want the guys to think, "Oh, everything's great." It's not. We still have a lot of work to do, and there's no doubt Lutz is firmly in that camp. He's trying to stay optimistic. He's praising the guys in the areas they need to be praised in. And he seems to be able to walk that line, Case, the good coaches where, and you played for some of them, I know. One of them was my brother. But when he said something, you paid attention, you knew, you respected what he was doing. He had the discipline, but he could also be your best friend. He could hug your neck. He could get you up when you were down, those type of things. And the great coaches have ability. We've seen coaches who just ran and raved and kicked their dog when they got home. And they were just always, it seemed like were mad about something, or, it just the players were maybe a little bit afraid. They were kind of unapproachable for the actual players they're coaching. And then you've seen guys who are too buddy. Everything's fine. Everybody's, kumbaya. Let's hold hands and sing. That doesn't work either. Those coaches are able to walk that fine line between, I've got discipline, I've got your attention. I say something, by golly, that I mean what I say because I'm genuine and I've been straight with you. But again, there's also times when maybe we kid around and we play a game of horse or whatever the case may be, but that they're able to, again, laugh and smile and get around with their kids at the same time. And I got Chad Weiberg, you say what kind of grade you give him, but when you look at J.C. Hoyt, you look at David Taylor, you look at Steve Lutz, now with the new football coach and Eric Morris coming in, I got to say his track record is pretty darn impressive at this point, and I think Morris will continue that streak.
We will leave it at that. Hall of Fame broadcaster Rex Holt, thank you so much, and go Packers, right?
Oh, yeah, not so much.
Okay. Thanks, Rex.
Thanks, Case. Appreciate it.